Hello and welcome to this week's episode of Market Talk. We're delighted to be joined today by Shane Mansfield, who is the Director of Marketing at Just Eat for Business, and also Warwick Wakefield, who is the Customer Experience Director at Flexeserve. Welcome, guys. Great to see you, and thank you for joining us. Shane, we'll start with you first. The big news from your side is that you've just recently rebranded your corporate ordering business, which was formerly known as City Pantry. It's now known as Just Eat for Business. What was the thinking behind that move? Presumably the chance to leverage the Just Eat brand was an important aspect of that.
Yeah, I think that's exactly it. We were looking at where we were as a business, and obviously we were at formerly City Pantry, and acquired in 2019. And for a long period, we'd stayed operating as City Pantry. But you know, one thing I think the pandemic was, if nothing else, was a catalyst for change, and we kind of looked at everything from our business perspective, and realised that actually with a lot of the really exceptional brand work that the Just Eat team had been doing, it was the right time for us to rebrand, take advantage of that maybe changing perception of Just Eat, and also leverage the national awareness that comes off the back of it. Plus, there's a huge amount of good marketing at the moment that's in play, with the Euros and Love Island as well, and other bits and pieces that are coming up. That means it was definitely the right time for us as a business to really try and leverage being part of the Just Eat group. And yeah, we of course did speak to our customers, both on the vendors side as well as the businesses we work with, and everyone was really receptive to the change. And yeah, it was something that now that we've done it, looking back, maybe it's something we could have even done sooner, but it definitely feels like the right time for us to have done it.
Yeah, fantastic. Well, obviously, it was massive news 2 years ago when Just Eat took over City Pantry at the time, and now, with the benefit of hindsight, it was obviously such a different period in the market's history. Given what we've gone through from a COVID perspective, I just wondered, from a structural point of view, the kind of the office and business workplace and dining market has changed quite significantly. To what extent has that impacted your strategy?
Yeah, I mean, it's changed the strategy quite dramatically, really, from where we were pre-pandemic to where we are now. As I mentioned, it's constant. Change has been constant. That's been the one constant is that change. So I think what we found is, obviously pre-pandemic, we were very much focused on in-office experience. Lunchtime made up the majority of where we were getting our orders, with some mix into evening order activity for offices, and it was very much workplace dependent. Very quickly, we had to pivot into much more of an at-home service, so delivering food from our food partners, our vendors, directly to employees' homes rather than the workplace, because our homes became our workplace. So we did have to pivot to that quite quickly, and saw the swing of orders move from in-office going right down quite dramatically, to moving to all at home. And luckily we were supported by being part of a bigger group, by being part of the Jet group and being part of Just Eat, that we were able to actually have the time and space to pivot successfully. And then what we've seen as slowly restrictions have eased and we've started to come back out of the pandemic to a degree, is that the hybrid working model is very much going to be the future. You've got businesses that are outliers that will say, no, we're going back to 5 days. You've got others, again, outliers that will be saying we're going to be fully work from home. And then the majority of what we're seeing at the moment from businesses is that they're going to be some sort of mix. It could be 3 days in, 2 days at home. It could be the other way around. 3 and 2 definitely seems to be the most common sort of working cadence that we're seeing businesses and our customers come back and tell us about, particularly from September. I think is a lot of where we're seeing a lot of these numbers come in. And luckily, because of the work we've done over the pandemic, it means that we've now got the product to support that hybrid approach, whether that be in the office or at home. And I think that's where the strategy has really changed, is really focusing on how we support businesses, offer that parity of perks for people that want to stay at home and for people that are in the office, and how they can all take advantage of sharing food together no matter where they are.
Great stuff, Shane. Thank you. I'm just going to bring Warwick into the conversation now, because Flexeserve has got expertise on the equipment side, definitely in terms of kind of delivery equipment and for food to go, etc. So I just want to kind of ask you a little bit about what Shane's been talking about, but from an equipment side of things. So what catering equipment do you feel is important then to ensure a quality food service delivery operation that Just Eat for Business has had to kind of put into place over the lockdown periods?
Well, I think first and foremost, what's been really interesting that we've noticed is that consumer expectation has actually probably risen a little bit since the pandemic. So their expectation of great quality has risen quite significantly, as well as the demand rising so fast as well at the same time. So obviously, us being the experts in hot holding equipment for front of house historically, we decided to pivot very quickly to develop a unit that was utilised our technology, but was used for the delivery world and the sort of out of home experience eating. So it's really important, I think, to have a great piece of equipment that can hold delivery orders during that period of downtime whilst you're waiting for a delivery driver to turn up. And in actual fact, we picked up a number of customers quite quickly who wanted to jump on that and be able to offer their customers the same quality that they would experience if they were a drive-through customer or a walk-in customer or a dine-in customer traditionally, but get that same experience from home. And I think it's really important to get that right piece of equipment for that offer.
Absolutely. And now that people are kind of going back to this hybrid or model or working from offices again, what do you think the best appliances are to assist staff dining and kind of assist that transition back into eating actually at your workplace?
Well, we noticed for operators that ease of use is super important, something that can slot into the operation very, very quickly, but also something that's very simple to use as well. So we developed Flexeserve Hub with that in mind, something that was very easy to use, utilises our great technology that our customers are used to working with, but also delivers great food quality as well. And that was number one when we decided to start look at developing that, was how to integrate all those great benefits that we've got in our front of house Flexeserve Zone technology into a whole new era for us of delivery and back of house operations.
And Warwick, in terms of the Flexeserve Hub, can you talk us through sort of the reaction that you've had to that from the marketplace? Has it opened up the market to a new set of operators for you?
Yeah, I think there's a number of customers that were doing delivery, but probably not doing a great job of it, and they probably wouldn't mind saying that themselves. So being able to utilise a new piece of technology has really assisted them to be able to deliver that same experience to customers. But then also there's customers that just didn't know how to enter the delivery world, but they knew that they were missing out on opportunities. So, obviously part of our service, the Flexeserve solution, we help everybody with all of our customers with the whole process. So that's not just the piece of equipment, that's actually the operation, the food packaging, which to a lot of people is quite a scary world, all the way through to how to operate it in store. So yeah, it's been really interesting to see customers that wanted to do delivery, didn't know how they've managed to pick it up quite quickly and be successful with it.
Sure. Okay. And Shane, just to bring you obviously back into the conversation here, picking up on your last point, which was obviously to do with how working patterns might change going forward. How straightforward is it to be able to predict what the office workplace dining arena might look like in the future?
Yeah, I mean, I think my finance director will tell you that the one thing the pandemic has done is that forecasting and projection has gone right out the window. As soon as you make an assumption, the chances are you're probably wrong. So we take like we're being very careful with how we go about predicting that, but I think, you know, that is the one thing, is we can't be sure right now until we see offices, you know, start to open in much higher numbers. From our experience with the, you know, the customers and the businesses that we speak to, obviously there is a big change just across the board, you know, with not only working habits, so when people will be in the office, but also what the office actually is, and the amount of space you need for that office. So if you go back, I think a lot of people, when you say, you know, office or where you work, you automatically go back to thoughts of, you know, it's a place where you go to do admin, where you sit at your desk all day in front of a computer. But actually, when you think about pre-pandemic, what we were actually doing in the offices at that point, we only were spending between 50 and 70% of our time at our desk anyway. The other time you're in meetings, you're collaborating, you're doing things with people generally. And so the office itself, the concept of the office was changing before the pandemic, and this is, again, it's sped that up. So the office itself, I think we'll see it become a hub of collaboration, of meeting people and engaging with each other and sharing moments, as opposed to the place that you would go to do your admin. You know, admin can now be done anywhere. It can be done on the train, via your phone. It can be done at home, like it can be done in the evening. The admin side of where the office used to exist, the reason for the office to exist, isn't there anymore. So that's going to transition. And I think a lot of businesses are going to think about how they're going to use that space to facilitate getting the best out of people. And that could mean reducing the footprint they have. That could be reducing their space. That could also be just changing it drastically. And one of the things that we know, you know, whenever we talk about people collaborating and people coming in for meetings and people sharing experiences, is the role that food plays in that. So I think for every business, it's going to be different on how they adapt and change their office, and whether they then look for, you know, how the mix of a delivered-in solution versus an in-house solution might look for their food needs. But I think, you know, as far as we're comfortable in predicting, I think we would predict certainly that the office will change, and it will change from, you know, the humdrum admin that maybe people perceive it as, to actually, you know, a place you want to be, because it's a place where you can collaborate and share experiences with your colleagues.
Yeah, sure.
Great stuff. Sounds lovely and positive, and not at all humdrum. So, Shane, I understand that there's further integrations with the Just Eat platform that are planned over the coming months. So companies will be able to access business orders through the Just Eat website or app. So why is that important to your setup, your division? Yeah,
no, I mean, absolutely. We a part of the, you know, becoming part of the Just Eat group was certainly to work out how we, you know, we can leverage their much wider nationwide penetration. So whereas we have been very focused on city businesses, so businesses within hubs, we want to get to a point where any business in the UK can order through us for their food needs. So we want to be accessible to everyone. Now that itself is a huge logistic challenge, but luckily we you know, we're part of a group that has already done that to a degree, and is present across I think it's 97% of the postcodes available across the UK. So by integrating with them, by making sure our services are aligned where possible, it gives us access to that entire base of food vendors that we can then leverage to service all of those businesses. So it does take us that one step closer to being able to, you know, offer any business wherever they are food for their employees in a way that's easy for them to access. So, you know, we see it with other apps, other food ordering services that are maybe more B2C in nature. It's sometimes very difficult for businesses to use them in the way that they would like, because they're not always set up to do mass orders. They're not always set up to integrate into the financial back ends of a business. And the idea is that by us taking the more B2C or consumer facing Just Eat part of the business, but actually providing it through the lens of the business via our platform, the For Business platform, it will make it easier for all businesses to access it in a way that's that's easy and optimal to them, as opposed to the consumer facing side of the business.
Good stuff. Warwick, coming back to you, obviously in the past 24 hours we've had the announcement that in England anyway, the roadmap to recovery, step 4 is happening, and all hospitality venues should be able to operate to capacity. So, I mean, in terms of kind of all of the different announcements over the months, like in various regions as well, have you seen an impact in terms of Flexeserve sales in the wake of any of those going back across the last 18 months? Has that directly impacted what you're seeing in terms of orders?
Yeah, I think we used to operate in a world where we tried to convince people to switch to grab and go, or switch to delivery methods that were simpler and easier and more efficient and delivered a great experience. And we're not having those conversations anymore. You don't have to convince people that that's the way forward. You know, as the pandemic hit and food security became high priority, we're really in the perfect position to be able to offer our customers that support, to be able to deliver it. And as a result of that, we've obviously seen we've had great results in the last 18 months, which seems quite unusual to say. And, you know, I appreciate that, you know, lots of businesses have struggled throughout the pandemic, but we've been able to stay strong and offer a great service to our customers and still deliver a great product as well. So yes, sales growth has been really positive for us, but what's really encouraging is that demand for our products in new areas. And Shane made a really good point earlier about the collaboration in office spaces. We're getting lots of demand now from the likes of contract caterers and food operators that want to be able to bring a really nice space for their customers and more importantly, their staff to come together into a conjoined space where they can eat, share and collaborate together. So we've been having some great conversations about that exact thing.
Fantastic. And Warwick, it's probably worth touching on the fact that you're a British manufacturer, and I understand you kind of remained open right the way through the pandemic, which is obviously something to be very, very proud of. Yeah,
obviously being a British manufacturer is a great thing, but as we've started to expand globally, it becomes a really good selling point. And yes, it's been difficult at times. We've had isolation periods, we've had pockets where bubbles of the team have had to work from home, but we've always concentrated on protecting our workforce on the shop floor to be able to maintain manufacturing, because there is increasing demand for the products that they're making, and most importantly, we just want to protect our people through what's been a really difficult time. So yes, we are really proud to have stayed open, but I say more importantly, we're proud that we've protected our people.
Yeah, brilliant. And I know at the moment, obviously, a lot of manufacturers are talking about challenges from a supply chain point of view, getting hold of parts and shipping issues and so on. Is that really kind of adding some extra challenges to the ones you would already faced just because of the market not being fully open until really later this month?
It has become challenging. We source some of our componentry from European suppliers, so it has been a challenge. But back in the day when we used to talk about Brexit instead of the pandemic, we decided to invest in stock. So we took stock of components from our European supply chain back in the Brexit days, and as a result of that, when the pandemic hit, we actually ended up in a really good position from a stock holding point of view. And then our UK supply chain have just been incredible. You know, they've really held our hand. They've stayed strong with us. We try to use as many local suppliers as we possibly can to us here in Leicestershire, and they've been brilliant and really supported us through. Obviously, with pandemic and the rise in delivery costs, and we've seen 250% increase in getting shipping containers over from the Far East, and even European transport of components has been, we've seen big increases in costs. But fortunately, like I say, we've got a fantastic team that work with our supply chain and managed to stay strong throughout it. So it's been good so far.
Good stuff. So Shane, coming back to you, at the time, Just Eat bought City Pantry 2 years ago, it was working with many caterers and top restaurants as well as high street chains such as Leon, Itsu, Bills. How easy is it to persuade some of those chains to work with you on a B2B capacity?
It's very easy actually, and the main reason is that what I think we help do is, like, there obviously there are within these restaurants, within these food partners, they have natural peaks and quiet times, and what we enable them to do is kind of spread that out. So it means that they have less peakiness, as it were, because they can take big orders from us, which they can then use, you know, the prep time that they have in the mornings when maybe they're a bit quieter, or mid-afternoon. They have those periods where maybe there'd be a bit of a lull in business just because of the natural peaks and troughs with that day, and we even that out. So it allows them to access these large orders that are repeatable, but they're also consistent. So they come in at the same time. They have at least normally 24 hours notice when they're over a certain size as well. So for them, it always makes sense for them to come on board to take advantage of the actual large orders available. And we're very, you know, food partner centric in how we work. So it's very much up to the food partners, whoever they are, to decide when they take those orders on, so they can mark themselves as away. They don't have to be available all the time on the platform. That's why the marketplace model works really well for us, because when an office manager, when someone in HR, when someone comes onto the platform to order food, they will see which vendors are available, recommended, and actually serving in their local area, and can then go and take advantage of those. So it's very much vendor centric, and you know, as I said, we hear, you know, a lot of the time that it's very positive. And as just touching on what Warwick mentioned with supply chain, we had exactly the same thing from the vendors during the pandemic. Some were struggling to get ingredients, to get food, to get just the raw materials needed to create their dishes in the same supply. And we were quite proud that by pivoting to the pantry packages and things like this, that we actually helped a lot of those caterers, a lot of those restaurants with you know, an avenue for revenue and to stay open that they wouldn't have otherwise had. And we had a lot of feedback from our vendor partners that they were pleased that they were able to, you know, keep going with the business orders that they wouldn't have normally been able to do. So it's been a challenge, but actually we find that most food partners, dependent on size and location, of course, they're quite keen to come on board because they see it as, you know, consistent, repeatable revenue that's easy to manage.
Great stuff. We're approaching the end of our time together, but I just want to fire one more question at you, Shane. So in the past, Just Eat has spoken about its desire to provide restaurant partners with support in areas such as marketing, utilities, food sourcing, and even catering equipment itself. So what's Just Eat's for Business stance on this? Are you focused entirely on the delivery side of things, or do you see yourselves supporting partners in other areas such as the equipment?
Yeah, so it depends on the equipment, if I'm going to be entirely honest, but we have had examples where we will help vendors with it is around equipment to help, obviously facilitating the orders that come through our platform. That's where we are. But where we have had vendors on that have, you know, struggled because they don't have the equipment available to meet the, you know, the high standards we set for the vendor partners that sit on our platform. We have helped and provided that equipment, because ultimately, you know, if a customer of a business orders on our platform, we want them to have the very best experience. And so therefore we need to make sure that those vendors are able to provide that. So where we've seen vendors, you know, for whatever reason, it may be cost prohibitive, it may be that there are other operational bits and pieces at play. Where that's happened, we will invest in getting that vendor up to the quality level that we want them to be at, and that could be through investing in equipment for them. It could be through educating them, and it could be through, you know, working with the right delivery partners that work with that vendor to get them to the quality that they want to be. So, you know, from our perspective, ultimately it comes down to the best experience that we can give to our company customers. and anything we can do to help facilitate that. So that could be for, anything from providing equipment, it could be providing photography, professional photography for menu items, which then obviously, the vendors can go away and use wherever they want as well, to the educational basis. So we're very much about supporting vendors to get the best possible service we can to our end consumer.
Great. It sounds like it's kind of a bespoke thing for each one then.
Indeed.
So we are running out of time. So thank you very much, Shane. Thank you very much, Warwick. Thank you for all watching and listening out there. And we will see you next time for another episode of Market Talk.